So let's get to the real question of the blame game. Who are you blaming for this? Justin Fields, the coaching, or both?
Man, I gotta blame both, just because I do think that really gotten really that better as a quarterback. He's still holding on to the
Right.
ball too long. He's
Right.
receivers. I mean, bro, you got DJ Moore clapping his hands. I mean, like, what were we
Yep.
complaining about? All the fuck was Justin Fields throwing to? We get you a receiver,
Right.
and you're not gonna throw him the ball. It's like, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I love Justin Fields,
Right.
but I'm running out of
You're running out.
excuse. Kind of got to start
Mhm.
calling it what it is. It's like let's just call it what it is. It's both. Like, he has, and he kind of has regressed in the coaching staff. It's like they're trying to make him become something he's not. This is the exact same. Right, the Redskins at the time tried to do an RG3, albeit RG3 wanted to be a pocket passer, but it's like, somebody made a really good point. I think it was Colin Cowherd. Like, these black quarterbacks, and he didn't say black this about race, but it kind of is an overarching thing. You'll have a black quarterback who gets paid, and all of a sudden the passer, bro, like, these quarterbacks got to stop making it seem like you can only win games one way. Play your way. That's what got you to this point. Now the Bears, they got to let him play his game. But
Yes,
it's like, I already think anyway. So regardless how this plays out, like, I really think like the Bears are primed down to a decision where, are you going to give Justin Fields his third head coach, or are you going to let Matt Eberflus quarterback in?
Right.
Before I finish, I just want to say, like, you might as well let Matt Eberflus his own quarterback if this doesn't work out, because at this point, Justin Fields would be on his third head coach, and what his quarterbacks that have to overcome multiple coaching changes don't work out. Recently, Marcus Mariota had a new offensive coordinator nearly every single year he was in Tennessee. Head coaches. So it's like, you put Justin Fields in the third head coaching situation, or you get a new system. Now you're giving him another playbook that he has to learn. I think it's best if they just grade him for like a third, fourth round pick and let Matt Eberflus and his staff pick their quarterback. And I think it would be good for
because
Justin
if another
Fields
coach, because if another coach comes in, you would be talking about technically his fourth head coach, Ohio State, Nagy, Eberflus, ABC coach. His fourth coach in his fourth offensive system, in his fourth offensive coordinator, more than likely. But here's where the defense case comes in. Got the blazer on, ties all tightened up. I don't have a gavel, but damn, I wish I did, because I am coming to the defense of Justin Fields right here, right now. If we're talking about the blame, most of the blame is on the coaching. Of course, when Justin Fields is holding the ball like that, when he's fumbling like that, that's on quarterbacks, right? Like, we have to give some of the blame to Justin Fields, but probably 90% of this blame for me is going to coaching and everything that's coming after I start this soliloquy right here. So let's look at the coaches that Justin Fields has now and who he did have. So he's got Matt Eberflus, who's won 13 out of his 19 games as a head coach, but who has accomplished the 23rd overall offense in points and the 27th overall offense in yards. He had the worst defense and the worst record in the league last year. Newsflash, he's on pace for the worst defense and the worst record again this year for a possible top pick, just like you said with Caleb Williams coming in. And with the defensive coordinator resigning, y'all know now he's about to start calling defensive plays, right? So that's more time away from the made head coaching duties that he's actually got. Matt Nagy was here before Matt Eberflus. Matt Nagy was 34-31 as a head coach, had the offense in an okay position in his first year. Of course, we know the story, right, is that he gets out of there because he really didn't know between Mitch Trubisky, kind of Andy Dalton, what was happening with Justin Fields. He couldn't really decide on a quarterback to actually implement into the system once the Bears jumped up and, got Justin Fields in the first round with the trade and got him number 11 overall. But of course, the offense after the first year was okay. It declined each year after that. Even though Matt Nagy only had a losing season one time, he went 12-4 in the playoffs, 8-8 missed the playoffs, 8-8 made the playoffs again, lost to my Saints, and then he goes 6-11 and gets fired. But he achieved the 22nd best offense in yards, which was better than Eberflus right now. No, yes, Matt had a full 4 years. Eberflus is, 19 games in, like I said. But Matt Nagy achieved the 22nd best offense in yards and also the 22nd best offense in points and the 25th best offense in yards. And the defense under Matt Nagy was damn sure better than a defensive-minded head coach and a former defensive coordinator from the Indianapolis Colts in Matt Eberflus. Matt Nagy had the 10th best defense. In his tenure, over the 4 years, his defense ranked 10th overall on an average in points per game, even lower in 7th in yards per game. And he had a mix of 3 defensive coordinators, Vic Fangio, Chuck Pagano, Sean Desai. Let alone the whole team. People were getting mixed up, thrown in, thrown out. He got them to the playoffs twice, and he was literally an Andy Pinero double doink against the Philadelphia Eagles away from going to play my New Orleans Saints in the in the divisional round the year that the no call happens, in the game before the no call happens, against my Saints. He loses to the Saints in the wild card year and in the second straight year of Matt Nagy going 8-8. But let's take it back a little further. The whole reason I'm bringing this up is it seems like the Chicago Bears have a history of moving off of coaches that actually do reputable things for them. So you also look at the fact that they fired Mike Ditka, who, what's up? Just wait. Just wait. Just wait. So when they fire Mike Ditka, obviously he had coached there for 11 years. Basically what had happened is some people say it was a squabble with Jim Harbaugh, kind of not getting along, a little bit of an interference with the media. But Mike Ditka, in his 11 years, literally won them a Super Bowl, only had 2 losing seasons in his 11 years there. Let's take it back even further to Lovie Smith, who got them to a Super Bowl in his 3rd year, but loses to Peyton Manning and the Colts, blew out my Saints in that NFC Championship game. They fired him after a 10-6 year. Dude only had 3 losing seasons, one of which was the first year that he got there and literally had the 32nd overall offense in points and yards. The Bears have had 1 winning season since letting Lovie Smith go. Ding, ding, ding. The 12-4 record that Matt Nagy actually established, where he was 1 kick away from Andy Pinero in getting to the divisional game against my Saints. So it's clear that the Bears fire good coaches who do things for them. That's just what history shows me. George Halas coached for 40 years and retired. They were great. But really ever since kind of Halas, the gap in between Halas and Ditka, I think it was Dave Winstead after Mike Ditka was not very successful. Lovie Smith comes in. I think he's solid, and they're still trying to find that coach ever since. Matt Nagy was kind of it, right? Winning record, 12-4, 2 playoff appearances, won them a division. And people were saying that year that Trubisky was not going to show up. It was really led by the defense. So realistically, the Bears have been lost at head coach. They don't know how to bring a good head coach in to actually give that toolage to Justin Fields. Let's look at the weapons that Justin Fields has had. You look at his rookie year is probably the best weapons that he's ever had. Just looking at the depth chart here. Just kind of generally speaking, David Montgomery, Tariq Cohen, Damian Williams, Khalil Herbert, Allen Robinson, really not Damiere Byrd, really not Riley Ridley, obviously Darnell Mooney, Marquise Goodwin was still able to be a weapon. You had Cole Kmet and Jimmy Graham. So kind of an end with the tight end room, right? Then you go and look at this year. The only person he's really got, obviously there's Khalil Herbert, but we talked about DJ Moore, and DJ Moore's already throwing his hands up. Like DJ Moore is literally already tossing his hands up, clapping for the football, not understanding necessarily what's happening with Justin Fields right now. DJ Moore is probably his best weapon, and they've played 2 games together. He got the tail end of Allen Robinson. Justin Fields had the worst offensive line in 2021 with the most sacks given up by the Chicago Bears. The 4th worst offensive line last year was sacks given up, and they're on pace to be the 3rd worst offensive line this year. He's had 2 offensive coordinators, 2 offensive systems, 2 GMs, 2 head coaches, the 11th worst defense in his rookie year, and the worst defense in the NFL last year. So, just a guy who is undoubtedly, again, the number 2 quarterback prospect coming out of college, not Zach, not Trey, not Mac Jones, transferred to Ohio State literally due to being misused and underplayed at Georgia. And he was not a runner mainly in college. He had 218 carries for 867 yards and 15 touchdowns. Did you know, JT, that Trevor Lawrence had more carries, yards, and touchdowns in college? And look at what Trevor Lawrence has done. Trevor Lawrence was also 5-20 in his first 25 NFL starts with arguably the worst head coach ever and a slob in Urban Meyer. Then he gets Doug Peterson, who is a Super Bowl winning head coach. He's now 9-3 since he's been under Doug Peterson. Lawrence got a coach, Calvin Ridley, Travis Etienne, a much better offensive line, a talent, starting off when he got to Jacksonville that was much better than Justin Fields when he showed up. We saw Josh Allen when he got Stephon Diggs. We saw Jalen Hurts when he got Shane Steichen and A.J. Brown. Fields has more, DJ Moore, but he doesn't have the coach. He doesn't have the O-line. And you can argue, JT, that since Justin Fields has come into the league in 2021, I'm breaking a sweat over this take. I'm sure you guys can see it. Since Justin Fields was drafted 11th overall by Chicago in 2021, you can say no quarterback on a consistent basis has had a worse front office, head coach, offensive scheme, weapons, offensive line, and defensive support since entering the league. Fields needs a Shane Steichen. He needs a Doug Peterson. Because just like you said with Eberflus, if Eberflus wants to let Justin Fields go, then Justin Fields definitely has to go to another team. Or if you want to stop Eberflus's madness right now, maybe let him get through half of the season, because let's face it, you're on a 12-game winning or losing streak. You have to break it down at some point and get to the part of actually supporting Justin Fields. I'm sure you've got some thoughts on that.
Man, I got to go with the coaching. Like, it's fair to point to the coaching, but at the same time, like, Chicago Bears have a history of getting rid of coaches that didn't deserve the game. For example, Lovie Smith, when you look at his final year, if you just look at, the record says 10-6, right? Well, the final season that he was in Chicago, 7-1, right? And when they start out 7-1, they have the best record. But who did they play during their first 7 games? Well, they only played one team that made it to the Green Bay Packers, and they lost to that team. You feel me? And then the only playoff team after was the Minnesota Vikings, who was in their division. So they struggled to beat playoff 7-1 start. They finished 10-6, and they missed out on the postseason. So I do think that decision to move on from Lovie Smith, and you said, what has Chicago done since they fired Lovie? What has Chicago? I mean, he hasn't had a winning record since. I mean, he was terrible with Tampa. He was terrible. It was terrible the single year that he was the head coach.
Because he was in his zone in Chicago, bro. He was in his zone. Lovie Smith only had a few losing seasons.
But it doesn't. But at the end of the day, though, like, he peaked in Chicago. The Super Bowl, they never went back.
That's definitely fair.
And his final season, they went 7-1. They beat only one playoff division, and they lost to all the other 6. It's just, it was time with Matt Nagy, his 6 games, and the year prior, they only went to the playoffs because they got lucky enough that they played against bad teams enough to backdoor their way in, and they were bad enough that they didn't even do anything offensively. And most Chicago fans season to how good Vic Fangio was with how great that defense was, because Matt Nagy, I mean, yes, when it came to defensive coordinator, but at the end of the day, you can tell if you got a good head coach or not if what they specialize in isn't good. His offenses were always mid. The offenses were never know how Mitch Trubisky was a Pro Bowler that first season that they went 12-4.
Yeah, that's crazy to think. Me? So Mitch Trubisky and Pro Bowler in the same sentence.
Yeah, and Matt Nagy's supposed to be an offensive-minded coach, and you drop developing Justin Fields. Cool. So you bring in,
well, you had him for 1 year.
Getsy. Yeah, but it's like with Matt Nagy, he's an offensive-minded coach. Offensive-minded coach to become like the most sought after head coaching candidate, because they feel if you just should lead to you having a rookie quarterback, and you should be able to develop, be successful under you if you're an offensive-minded guru. But sometimes, like, you can be an offensive-minded coach and you at quarterback. Now, Matt Nagy, I'm not saying, the Bears whiffed on drafting Justin Fields, but, for a head coach that Justin Fields was never really that good and never really showed promise under him in his rookie season. Like, Luke Getsy, I don't think he's entirely bad, at least based on what I saw last year. This season went down a notch, but maybe that's because Luke Getsy is trying to run the offense that he's a coach. They modified the offense. If you go and you look, like, the offense they ran the first 3 games was not the offense that he's in after. It was more RPOs, read options, zone reads, quarterback keepers. this year they aren't really more pass heavy sets, a lot more passing. They're not really running they're not really running anymore. Design, seeing a lot of zone reads anymore. You're not seeing the RPOs. You know, these are things that Justin Fields was. That's what helped him make the transition from Ohio State to the NFL. You see,
Yep.
you got to make the transition quarterback. But at the end of the day, though, it's like at the same time, the players got to execute plays. The players got to execute. And with Justin Fields, it's like some of the stuff that he's doing, you can't really like with DJ Moore being wide open on the flat. You got to see that. You feel me? Like you gotta understand that's your escape. You feel me? Like
that's why
it's a mixed bag. Yeah, that there's more pressure on Justin Fields because him a third year. He didn't drive Justin Fields. You know, Ryan Poles didn't drive Justin Fields. This isn't really their guy. So really they're trying to make do for them just because, you know, the previous regime drafted them in the first round. But it's like you can move on from Justin Fields and maybe get a Caleb Williams or a Drake May. You feel me?
So they can mishandle him? So they can mishandle. I know it's 8, so you got to go soon. But so they can mishandle Caleb Williams.
Good. But it's like maybe Caleb Williams is a better fit in the system than what Justin Fields is. Not a great passer coming out of Ohio State. Statistically, he was, but if you watch the film, you know, like he still sees some progressions. There was a reason why Kyle Shanahan, the 49ers, didn't even evaluate this dude. And the same Ohio State holding the ball too long, not being great at dissecting defense in terms of pre-snap, still are the same issues that we have in Chicago, and it's not all his fault.
Yeah. Right.
Like you said, you have changes and whatnot, but at the end of the day, when you're drafted in the first round, you're getting drafted team
traded up for, so the pressure is already elevated. You're supposed to be
Justin
the savior
Herbert
of a team that hasn't had a quarterback since like maybe Jay Cutler. I mean, I don't know.
Like Justin Herbert. Like Justin Herbert is really one of the best QBs in the league. He's about that. And his 5th, 6th season next year. And he's still balling out. So it's like same thing. Like when you get drafted in the first round, everybody knows you're not going to take made sometimes, but you still kind of have to make the best of it. That's why I feel for Justin Fields. Like if it doesn't work out this season, it's one of those situations where one party deserves more blame than the other. Like I definitely hear, and you know, you say like, well, if they draft Caleb Williams, they'll ruin him too. But you got to remember, like every Caleb Williams is the best quarterback prospect since, you know what, Andrew Luck. I'm saying you got to be a really, like you got to be a really awful head coach. A guy like a Caleb Williams. He's such a more polished passer right now than what Justin Fields was coming out. It's like I love him. You feel me? And I'm not saying that I'm a terrible quarterback. Like I still believe in him. I feel he can turn this around. I think the Bears are going to have get back to the last year. They tried to get a little bit outside the box. They tried to implement some new things. Now they need to go back to what do that. But ultimately, like if this doesn't work, I think that the Bears are probably best served in Fields because it'll be his third head coach. You feel me? Like you don't even want to go through that QB in there. I think it's really 50-50. It's like I agree. The coaching is not great. You feel me? I agree with that. But I'm sit here and make it seem like Justin Fields overlooking DJ Moore is something that, you feel me, he still has to be able to execute. Like he got outplayed by Baker Mayfield. You feel me? Now Baker Mayfield, like coach, he has only one win this season. The dude almost missed the playoffs in the weakest in the NFL player in NFL history, and Tom Brady. You feel me? So it's like Tom Brady was able to carry you. Like great quarterbacks have to overcome dysfunction. Like Justin Fields, like he has a prove. The situation is bad for him to play how he has the first 2 weeks. You feel me? It's like I think it really is 50-50. Coaching hasn't been great, but the play hasn't been great neither. It's like these hands, like this is the same stuff Mitch Trubisky was doing. I can't give you blame. I can't give you an excuse for that. I can't run in right into a sack. 2 of them. You feel me? I can't give you an excuse for holding on to the ball as a mental clock. And he even talked about it. It's like, okay, you know, you got a mental clock. Get the ball out. Throw it like it. Extend the play. Like, you can't be holding on to the ball too long in year 3. Like, year 3 is where you really can figure out if a quarterback is him or not. Year 3 is where it all comes around. Year 1 is like, okay, the free trial. You feel me? You throw him out there, you just let him get there. 2 is where you're looking for that ascension. Like Trevor Lawrence, what's year? You're looking for that big jump. You feel me? Year 3 is where you're looking for him to really cement himself as that guy. And Justin Fields hasn't cemented himself yet. And against Kansas City this week, they really need him to
be ugly.
Have a great game. That thing can get out of hand. Now, I think Justin Fields can keep
that Chiefs defense led by Spags, bro.
This is the best defense that Spagnuolo has had in all his years at Kansas City up to this point.
Oh yeah, man. Definitely one of the top ones for sure. Spags is doing his thing. Steve Spagnuolo is definitely making things shake. I want to respect your time though. Do you need to jump out, man?
No, we good, man. We can go. Shoot.
Okay. Cool. I just wanted to make sure. All right. But no, that's some really great points there, man. I mean, I totally feel you. My thing is, and then we can move on to Deshaun Watson. I'm just real quick. Are you good to go through Deshaun Watson and then you'll hop out?
Yeah, we can cover like 2, 3 more.
Sorry, I keep asking. I respect people's time like crazy. I don't want to.
We can do 2, 3 more topics.
Okay, Batman. Sounds good. I'll probably just I'll hit this last little part of Fields, and then I think we'll get into Watson, and then I'll let you shoot because I got a couple things lined up for after your appearance as well. But no, I mean, great points that you said there, right? You know, eventually a player does have to produce, but when we look at how Jalen Hurts was extremely mishandled, and he got a gift in Shane Steichen coming over to really help the toolage with him. We see Shane Steichen literally having Anthony Richardson in a toe-to-toe matchup with a former number 1 overall pick in Trevor Lawrence in Anthony Richardson's regular season NFL debut. Not preseason, but regular season. Of course, he was playing, decent in the second game as well, and then he gets knocked out due to injury. But Josh Allen didn't really have a solid foundation at first, was a very raw player coming out. Had to get Stephon Diggs to really take that leap. Like I said, Justin Fields has DJ Moore, but he doesn't have a coach. He doesn't have an O-line as good as a Jalen Hurts, as good as a Mac Jones, as good as a Josh Allen, as good as a Trevor Lawrence walked into. He walked into the worst situation of that quarterback class, and I hope that the Bears are able to see what they've actually got on their hands, because if things are worked correctly with Justin Fields, and of course we can say this about a lot of things in life and about a lot of players, like, oh, if I scratch the right lottery ticket, I'm gonna win $1 billion, right? We get that. Things have to fall into place for it to happen, but I can't rag on a guy yet, digging as deep as I did, knowing how the Bears kind of have this culture in them. And I just, again, worst O-line, worst coaching, worst offensive schemes, worst defense. I mean, where's even the leadership? The year he comes in, new coach, new GM. Not only a new head coach, but a new GM who has a new vision. So that kind of throws everything off, right? I mean, it really is going to be an interesting situation to understand how things unfold here with Justin Fields, with the Chicago Bears. Because I'm with you, man. I like him as a player. I love him as a player. One of my favorites in the league. I thought he was by far the second best prospect coming out of that class. And obviously, landing where he's landed now has definitely made some things different. And we also know where you land is everything. Like, we got Dion talking about Shedeur wanting to go number 1 overall next year, but it's like, Dion, no matter what year he goes number 1 overall in, unless it's a Niners trading the house or a, Panthers trading the house to get to number 1, and even then, the Panthers, rough roster. What is Bryce Young actually working with?